Hey guys, what's going on? Game number 2 between Socke and Boz here. If you didn't see the first game, then I won't spoil anything. I know a lot of times that I do wrap up the first game or the previous game in a series when talking at the beginning of a game. And I guess for people who haven't seen the previous game, it's a bit of a spoiler, so I'll try not to do that anymore. So yeah, we do have a game between Socke and Boz here on Xel'Naga Caverns. And yes, I know this is not pronounced Socke, but that is how I like to say it. So sue me, I suppose, if you want to. I don't know how far that's going to go in courts, though. Maybe, I don't know, maybe small claims court. Maybe we can get away with that in small claims court. Maybe we can go on, what is it? What's the name of that show that my mother used to always watch when I lived at home? Oh, man, I can't even think of it right. Judge Judy. Yeah, Judge Judy. That was a great show. I would love to go on Judge Judy with you, and we can dispute the pronunciation of S-O-C-K-E, as I like to say, Socke. Boz is going to be scouting out the corners of his base right now, checking for any sort of proxy pylon, any sort of cheese. This is obviously a good habit to get into, especially if you're in the lower leagues. And look at that, just spotting all the likely areas. So great job there by Boz. He wants to make sure that he does not get cheesed early game here from Socke. Obviously, Socke not going to be doing that. He says, "No, I'm going to play standard. I don't want to do any sort of cheesy stuff." But as a lower level player in your games, it's a good idea to go ahead and do this because obviously cheese is quite prevalent in the lower leagues. From bronze to platinum and even low diamond, you do see a lot of proxy work and stuff like that. It can happen anytime, but that's where you see it the most because it's kind of the easiest stuff to get away with. Players who aren't quite comfortable with the long macro games, they tend to try to cheese, and I'm not saying that Socke is one of those players. I'm just saying I'm speaking for those low-level players out there who like to watch these commentaries. So yeah, scout those dark corners of your base, check the likely proxy areas around your natural, and then any areas, like especially here in Xel'Naga back here, is very popular because not everyone checks it, and as a result, you can end up getting cheesed pretty hard. So both players are going to be scouting out the opponent's base here. Socke trying to move forward to do some SCV harass, getting off a few shots there on Boz's SCV, but going to be forced to pull back right now with another SCV moving forward to engage, and Boz obviously looking to do a very standard opening thus far. Also, again, last game, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about last game because I just said I wouldn't spoil it. So Boz is going to be moving around to scout out the base here of Socke, and yeah, neither player doing anything fancy right now. What's that? Another simulator coming out. So Socke looks like he's not going to be going for any sort of super early aggression, getting out that second assimilator, and lends itself to teching up. Obviously, if he was going for some really early stalker pressure or anything fancy like that, then he wouldn't necessarily get that second assimilator quite yet. We can see right now about 23 supply. So Boz here getting a nice scout of the base, also sitting out with these two Marines right outside of his base. And look at this second barracks coming down. Going to be seeing a bio-heavy build here from Boz. We'll see if it's quite effective enough. And actually, here's another one coming down. So going to be working with that 3 racks build. Obviously, very effective build against Protoss, especially early game. The only real big concern in going for this 3 racks build is that when you're trying to be aggressive early on, force fields on the ramp from your Protoss opponent can pretty much deny your push there. And look at this Zealot moving forward, and although it's not going to be a die anytime relatively soon, the fact is it's going to get a scout of this 3 racks, and look at that, Socke just running on into the base here of Boz, taking a few shots of those Marines. Boz trying to micro away, did end up losing the one though, but again, a nice scout of Boz's base. Socke is fully aware that the 3 racks is coming, so he's going to know to prepare for it, and yeah, that's about all there is to say about it. Just boldly running right into the base here of Boz and doing what he can, and this is a great idea here as well. Early stalker pressure. If you can just do enough damage to those Marines, even getting off 1 or 2 shots and then pulling back and allowing your shield to recharge, until medevacs come into play, those Marines will be permanently injured. But the thing about your stalker, of course, is that shield does recharge, so that's something to consider. Early stalker pressure against Marines from a Terran player can be very effective, and you can see again Socke just waiting for that shield to recharge, moving forward, doing what he can for damage, and again, look at that Marine is permanently injured until a medevac comes into play, and obviously medevac's not going to be coming into play anytime soon, especially with this 3 barrack build. So although Socke isn't going to kill anything most likely, especially with this many Marines, just the fact that he's doing damage, he's softening up these units. Actually does manage to get away with 1 kill. Marauder coming into play, that's going to shoo him away, especially as soon as that concussive shell comes into play. But still, regardless, his shields are going to recharge, he'll be fine, and he managed to take out a unit, and that's a big win there. You can see Socke prepared for any sort of early game pressure, like I mentioned, going to be getting those sentries and going to be using that to force field the ramp, and then he should just be a-okay. There won't be much of an issue to defend against this push as long as he goes ahead and drops those force fields correctly. And look at this, Socke being very bold here, even though he knows he's getting pushed early, teching very hard to robotics bay. Quite interesting play. He feels like at this point, I'm going to assume that he's going to be safe with these force fields. He feels like he's going to land them no problem, and then it's going to allow him to take up to Colossus and just pump that bad boy out relatively soon. And then obviously once that's on the board, Boz will be in a lot of trouble. So here we go, push trying to come, and that is the problem right now. 3 barracks push, as absolutely devastating and effective as they can be against Protoss early game. If the Protoss has a shred of an idea as to how to defend it, all he's going to do is just mass force field the ramp, prevent you from walking into his base, and there's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do about it. And look at this proxy pylon coming down from Socke, so might be preparing for some counter aggression of his own, and looks like Boz is realizing that this push isn't going to be as devastating as he has hoped, and will just be going ahead and getting an expansion up. So going to be taking advantage of the fact that Socke probably feels pretty contained right now. Obviously until that Colossus comes out, feels pretty contained right now, and going to just trying to be expand himself, trying to get that economic advantage, and that actually could work quite in his favor. Canceling that, and no, looks like he's just going to keep up with his aggression and going to push out, actually canceling that expansion there, deciding he doesn't want to do that, and yeah, wow, just going to be continuing to push. That is quite interesting. Going to be interested to see how this plays out right now. Again, we do have a Colossus on the board, and here we go, Clash of the Titans just about to take place. Both armies going to be engaging each other in just one moment. Concussive fire from the Marauder, slowing down that Socke. Here we go, stim pack going down. That Colossus is dead in the water. Force field's going to be chopping down those units there of Boz, though. The Zealots do absolutely devastating amounts of damage to those units once they stay in range, and those force fields allowed him to do so. But wow, that Colossus got dropped quickly. That was a big loss for Socke. Just such a resource investment, even getting that robotics bay up so early and then investing in that Colossus. The fact that Boz was able to catch him off guard and snipe it down almost instantly is a big problem for Socke. So Socke gonna need to come out with some. Oh no, he has warped in units. He doesn't have a warp in for a sentry. Where's this push coming? He cannot warp in a sentry yet. He doesn't have the option. He needs to push in right now. If Boz can push in right now, he's gonna absolutely roll over Socke. And where is that sentry? Is there no sentry being warped in? Is he really not warping in the sentry? Here comes the push right now. Stim pack going down. This is going to be a bit devastating. Socke not warping in that sentry, isn't able to keep these units outside of his base, forced to pull down some units. He's going to be engaging with that Colossus though, so that's actually going to be enough to push back these units. That could have been very, very terrible for Socke, but again, he knew that that Colossus was coming out, so he felt like he was safe even if those units did push into the base. Was forced to engage with a few of those probes, and obviously unfortunately did lose a couple of those, but still did manage to keep this push from absolutely rolling over him. That could have been a lot worse than it was. Boz just continuing up this aggression. Look at this, keeping his macro nice and solid, just continuing to pump out these Marines and Marauders, and actually coming out with a few additional buildings and not expanding yet. So going to be coming out with some additional buildings. He obviously cannot support this for very long, but looks like he just plans on trying to win this game relatively soon, unless he's going to be dropping an expansion sometime really soon. And actually, I think he may very well be doing that. You can see he's starting to pull up those minerals, so might be seeing that expansion go down sometime very, very soon. And yeah, now would be actually be a really good time to do so, because again, even though he has these, oh no, he's not actually going to just be continuing to pump out units, so not expanding. Again, the problem with this, so many buildings, he can't afford to constantly produce out of all of these. There's going to be some time in between where things are just not coming out. And was he coming out with Hellions? No, he's going to be actually rolling up to those double Marines. Oh, actually, no, probably just moving that starport over. I thought he might have been going double Hellion, which would have been quite odd, so that's why I figured maybe not, but he's probably going to be going out with double Viking here, and again, just staying on one base play. Boz is going to be looking to do a really strong push. Does he know about this expansion? I'm not sure if he does know. He does not know of this expansion. Maybe he's just assuming that Socke was going to expand, because Socke is probably assuming that he has expanded, but the fact that he's going to stay on one base play is going to allow him to push out very, very strong with a lot of units. Obviously, again, like I said, you can just see here, not able to sustain production out of all of these buildings. It's just too many on one base. Look at this, nothing coming out of the factory, and still very low resources. So yeah, that's something to consider there. And anyway, he's gonna be pushing forward right now, and again, the fact that he stayed on one base is gonna allow him to be super aggressive. You can see here Socke has obviously vested resources into this expansion. He is of course as well keeping up this pro production really solid, to be able to ensure that he can saturate that expansion. And you can see over here, of course, Boz has not had any SCV production anytime recently, and as a result, going to be able to use those extra resources in just a one base, super strong army push. Now, Socke is finally coming out with this observer, but it might be a little bit too late. Big forces of Boz. This is really going to determine how the game plays. Basically, if Boz cannot win here, it is game over. He is really committed to this. He needs to win in this one big push. If this does not happen for him, he is done. And actually going to be lifting up, taking advantage of those medevacs, probably going to be dropping in the main and then attacking that expansion. I think that is exactly what's happening. Here goes a drop in the main. I'm gonna be interested to see what he's trying to target fire here, dropping those individually as they all drop out, and the retreating of the forces here. Oh, from Socke, gonna be moving into the main, and that big push is gonna be coming very soon. I can feel it. It's gonna happen any moment right now. Paying attention to the micro of his units, unfortunately dropping those units, but here comes the big push right now. Force field's trying to go down, but not before a few of these units do get in. Colossus is gonna be moving down to engage at some point. No, the Colossus is hanging over there. Socke needs to grab that Colossus. That is a big problem right now. He does have a few over here, but those are getting target fired by those Marines, Marauders, and the Vikings there, and this Colossus coming to the party a little bit too late, and this could be a big problem for Socke. He does not have a lot right now, forced to pull down with those workers. Now, the forces of Boz are pretty dwindled at this point, but he does have some reinforcements working on the way down. You can see, again, absolutely no resources left in his main, so he is really committed to this push right now, warping a few more units. Socke doing what he can to defend. Another stim pack going down, going to be keeping away from those zealots as well as those probes. Great micro there, and so many Vikings. If a Colossus does come out, it's going to get dropped instantly. We can actually see that Immortal's coming out instead of that Colossus, so the Vikings not going to be quite as effective right now, and Socke just GG's. He decides it's the end of the game. He can't do a whole lot. Yeah, he had no mining here at the expansion. He didn't have a lot of resources left, so he wasn't going to be able to sustain any sort of production besides maybe 1 or 2 warp-ins. So great game there between these two players. Boz did manage to win this game as well, so great play there by him. Just really committed, though, one base all in. And again, this is the problem. These things can be effective, but had Socke been able to defend that, and I think if he got that Colossus down a little bit sooner, he would have had a much better chance of defending against that. Had he been able to defend against this, Socke would have won the game because Boz just had no transition prepared at all. He didn't even have additional expansion up, but either way, he did win the game, and I suppose that's all that matters. So as always, guys, if you enjoy the content, make sure you subscribe to my channel, and keep watching and keep owning.